This is Golden Years, a roadmap to navigate retirement with Mark Cordner, the podcast.
Now, here's the deal. Americans, let's face it, we are do-it-yourselfers, right? We are always, I know I am. I'm on YouTube going, how do I fix the garbage disposal? I'm trying to do things on my own. Well, it turns out sometimes that's not a good idea. I read an article that warns that attempting to fix certain things when you lack expertise can result in some serious injuries or even death. Listen to this. When it comes to the microwave, you think, okay, I'm just going to unplug it. No big deal. Well, apparently it can still hold a charge after you unplug it and fatally shock you. So if you're thinking of replacing the microwave, may want to rethink that. Here, gas and electric. So whether you're installing a new gas range or lighting fixture, working with gas lines or electricity in your house when you're not a licensed electrician or plumber is a bad idea. I think everyone knows that. I don't mess with gas or electric. What about you?
Absolutely not me. I don't mess with anything.
My
wife says no. My wife says that tools visit our house; they don't live there. So, she has to hire a real man. So.
Listen, no. Sometimes it's just about knowing your limitations and going. Listen, it's about convenience. I can call the person to come fix it, and everything's going to be fine. And like kind of in your case, you were telling me you would much rather pay 125% to get it done the right way versus 300% if they have to come in and fix whatever you messed up too.
I tend to do things in mirror image, reverse order. I don't know how it is, just the way I'm wired, but I've learned long ago that DIY, do it yourself, becomes OMG very quickly. Like, oh my gosh, what have I done? So I always say, I always hire out, and I tell people, don't do your own trust, don't do your own haircuts, don't do your own brain surgery. When it comes to financial planning as well, we don't know what we don't know. So let's have a little trust in those who have spent decades, studying and working in a particular area. It's a lot less. Any good professional is going to more than pay for their services through the savings they create. Definitely when it comes to home repairs. We constantly have handymen in. This morning, in fact, we have a handyman at one of the homes, and I'm not doing that stuff. I'll just screw it up.
There's a reason they do what they do, and there's a reason you do what you do. And you guys are both very successful. It's very much stay in your lane. And, when it comes to planning for your retirement, there's something to be said about, quote, doing it on your own for the past 20 years or so, right? You're putting away that 401k. Maybe you've dabbled in the market a little bit. Maybe you have a pension if you're lucky enough to have one of those. But when it comes to kind of tying everything together to, create the perfect bow to go on that retirement, that's where somebody, Mark, like you need to come in and you need to apply your 30 years of experience. If it was as easy as we all think, I say we, being the people that don't do it every day, unlike you, Mark, you wouldn't be here.
That's exactly
way
right.
more difficult. Yeah.
The number one observation we hear after the 6-hour classes, we do a number of classes at the college, adult education classes, but there's one in particular. It's a 6-hour class taught in 2 3-hour sessions. And the number one remark we hear at the end of class is, oh my heavens, I wish I had heard this 10, 20, 30 years ago. And again, we just don't know what we don't know. And we're working with intelligent people. I mean, the folks who come to these classes tend to be very conscious of their financial circumstances and wanting to get ahead. And yet they make that observation that, oh my heavens, I wish I had known.
Yeah, you don't want to be part of that coulda, shoulda, woulda club. That's not a club you want to be a VIP member part of. You want to be proactive and have a plan in place, because I don't care how much money you have or what you do for a living. The one thing you cannot do, nobody in this world can do, is buy back time. So you can't get to that finish line and then look back and go, oh, I should have done these 20 items on this checklist so that I can retire this year or next year. Now I have to work an additional X amount of years because I chose not to meet with somebody like Mark. And I know you see this every single day, Mark.
I could think of a number of cases just off the cuff here. I think of one couple that came to me. They were referred to us right as they were retiring. They quickly moved out to Indiana, and their big hang up was fees, and our fees are a fraction of most people's fees, but they just didn't like the idea of fees. Kind of do-it-yourselfers was how they thought of themselves. They had been paying fees for years and weren't even aware of it. But then, long story short, they came to us. They moved shortly thereafter to Indiana. Some, I'm sure, well-intentioned person at their local credit union told them, look, you don't have to pay fees. You can put your IRA savings into one of these accounts. Well, because the client didn't understand the process and the person of that credit union, frankly, didn't either, they ended up cashing out their retirement plan, putting it into a bank savings account, and they just lost 30 years worth of tax privileges that had been built up. They lost them in one fell swoop simply because neither they nor the well-intentioned cashier or whoever at the credit union didn't know what they were doing. I mean, that's just one example. I think of another example of a family that this was actually a family of one of a wonderful former employee of mine, where a very close relative, I won't divulge too much here, but a very close relative was killed in an automobile collision with a elk, a large animal in the forest.
Oh my gosh.
And what happened, though, was he didn't die at the scene. He died the next day in the hospital because of the trauma. And I tell this because they thought they were well prepared in terms of insurance and other things. He was just approaching retirement. And it turned out that he had accidental death insurance, which you would have thought would have paid out for an accident. But if you understand how those policies work, the planets have to be in alignment. And so we shouldn't confuse accidental death insurance that you get for $2 a month at the credit union with real life insurance. And so what became of it was the widow didn't get immediately into retirement in the position she thought she was going to be in, because suddenly all that money that was supposed to take care of her for decades disappeared. And so there's a do-it-yourself. And again, I don't mean to point at people and say, too bad, so sad, because it truly was tragic, the implications that it has to families. There's a lot of examples like this. Certainly on the tax front, though, people don't know what they don't know often, and often end up in a totally different position than they thought they were in because they tried to do it themselves.
A lot of us think about retirement and we go, all right, 401k, maybe I have a pension. Oh, yeah. And then Social Security, that's going to be there for me, right? Well, turns out it is estimated that the Social Security Trust Fund will go dry as early as 2034. And if Congress does absolutely nothing, benefits could be cut as much as 25%. Here's Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville. He says the writing is already on the wall.
This is all a scam. I mean, we got people that's getting ready to retire that's going to try to live off $2,000 to $3,000. Impossible. Because what happens, it comes up here, we spend it. We're $35 trillion in debt. We don't have any money. We're dead broke. We are in huge trouble. And we had better start figuring that out, because we're going to have a run on this city here soon. And there's going to be about 150 million people coming up here saying, where's our damn money that we paid in? I could have put my Social Security money 40 years in the market and probably be worth 8 to 10 million today. But the federal government wasted it. People are going to continue to work longer and longer.
I mean, he's not wrong. What do you think?
Well, I think in his passion, he's absolutely correct. People are going to be showing up in Washington, D.C. with pitchforks when people realize what the problem really is there. But I'm not sure I'm as much of a doomsayer. I mean, I think the problems are fundamental and they're incredibly serious, and we are looking at a reduction in benefits unless we do something. But I also know that from history, we have done things in the past, and kicking and screaming is what's going to have to happen with the politicians. But in 1983, we saw this when Social Security was going to be cut because we were in a similar situation. And what they did was at that time, they extended Social Security benefits from age 65 progressively to age 66 and 67, depending upon when we were born. They're going to have to do something like that again. They need to stretch it out to age 70. It should be indexed to our life expectancy. When it was created back in 1935, it was with the expectation the benefit would pay out for 2 to 3 years, not for 2 to 3 decades. And so we truly do need to postpone how quickly Social Security pays out. They also, in 1983, decided to tax a portion, up to 85% of Social Security benefits. They're going to have to tax the full benefit. And I'm convinced these things are going to happen. But generally, when they speak about this, they say it's going to affect people under the age of 50. Those who are on the doorstep of Social Security generally won't be affected. That's typically what they say. I'm not a prophet. I can't say with certainty. But I do have absolute confidence that kicking or screaming, the politicians are going to be forced to deal with this because it's a mathematical problem, and we can only foist so much of that problem onto our children and grandchildren. Tuberville's right. The senator says that, or however you pronounce his name, he's right that the money is not sitting in some secret vault that's going to just pay out. It's going to be coming out of the taxes against currently working younger people, when frankly we don't have a lot of them coming up behind us to really pay all of this bill. So this is a serious issue, and I think that serious people eventually will prevail, but they're going to have to drag their fellow politicians kicking and screaming to the table.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but putting all of our eggs in the Social Security basket is certainly not what we need to be doing when it comes to retirement and planning for the rest of your life. I mean, this is something that I don't know. The mindset I have is like, well, okay, let me plan for retirement and Social Security is on the side, right? It's like the added benefit if it's there or if it's decreased. I mean, how do we know if Social Security is going to be there, if our Social Security is at risk? How do you start planning for, let's say, my retirement, Mark, if we don't even know if that piece of the puzzle is going to be there?
Well, there are no guarantees in any area of life. And so I say overplan. If it comes to it, some people come to us and they say, well, I've always thought Social Security won't be there. And so I've saved as if it would not be. And if it does come, all the better. But if it doesn't come, I'll be okay. I like that way of thinking, even though I'm personally confident that it'll be there in some form. I think over-planning is always better. One of the great mistakes is that most Americans are claiming Social Security at age 62. They're not waiting until 65, 66, 67, or even to age 70 when the greatest payout is available. They're taking it at 62. And for some, it's thinking, well, a bird in hand is better than a promise in the bush, that old kind of expression. I'll take what I can get now. Before it goes belly up. There's all these kind of statements, but the truth is most people are retiring too soon, and they're retiring with the expectation that Social Security is going to do more for them than it was ever designed to do. And so we absolutely have to think differently. It cannot be the primary source of income. There needs to be personal savings. There needs to be private, either public or private pensions. Real estate. There's other ways to have guaranteed forms of income.
Investment advisory services offered through Golden Years Financial LLC, a registered investment advisory firm. Insurance is offered through Golden Years Insurance Services. These firms do not provide legal or tax advice. Consult your own legal and tax advisors before taking actions that may have tax implications. Investing in securities involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Insurance contracts' principal protection is based on the claim-paying ability of the respective insurer. None of the information contained on this website shall constitute an offer to sell or solicit to buy a security or insurance product. The information and opinions contained on this site or requested from this site are provided by third parties believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed. They are provided for informational purposes only and are not a solicitation to buy or sell any of the products mentioned. Any media logos and or trademarks contained herein are the property of their respective owners, and no endorsement by those owners of Mark Cordner, Golden Years Financial, or Golden Years Insurance is stated or implied.